This is the spiritual discussion program. I'm Saad here in the studio, and I'm going to be joined by my
Hello.
two colleagues. There they are. Gregory, are you there?
Hello.
Oh, welcome to
Hello.
the show. How are you? Where are you? And how's the weather where you are?
Well, I'm still in England
Okay,
and it's downcast as usual.
downcast. Okay, whereabouts are you?
I told you Worthing.
Worthing. Say it again. I think you said made a description there. Where?
Worthing.
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 Worthing, down on the coast, south coast. Okay,
Yes.
and we should have Mena as well. Mena, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Greetings, Mena. How are you? Where are you? And how's the weather where you are?
Yes, I'm still in the heartland, and the weather's, been light rains, but manageable though.
Okay, welcome, welcome. This is Saad here in the studio in North London. It's been raining a little bit. Now it's, of course, dark, but yes, not too cold as well. That's the news I can tell you. So, dear listeners, as I mentioned, this is the spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And we have a new topic every week. The topic tonight is why genuine love is severity. So I'll say it again. Why genuine love is severity. And you can join in with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 31366. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And I want to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, by Abrushin, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abrushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you again, the topic for tonight is why genuine love is severity. And you can join in with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 313 66. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 313 66. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. So Gregory, as I said, the topic, as I've said tonight, is why, and I put a comma after that actually, why, comma, genuine love is severity. And I think maybe it will be shocking for listeners that we are putting the word severity, because maybe they do not think that love can be severe or has severity. So I want to say, I mean, we never think of it like this. As I said, love can be severe. So first, Gregory, is that correct what I've said there? Can love be severe?
Of course, many parents already know this, so it's not surprising. For is there anyone who may live or lives by the roadside and has a child, and we allow the child to wander aimlessly into the road where the traffic is heavy? Will a parent not be very severe with the child to ensure that he or she doesn't cross into the heavy traffic? That's just a simple example. That there is severity only means one is concerned. It is those people whom you love that you show the greatest concern. It is that concern that introduces severity. Otherwise, you would not sort of introduce such a scenario for things you don't care about. Whoever cares for another will, to a large extent, be on the alert for that particular person who is cared for, and will always warn. Such warnings are very severe warnings to ensure that the loved one does not fall into a scenario where terrible injuries may occur.
Thank you, Gregory, for that explanation on clarity, actually. And, because of the word severe, sometimes I think we tend to think of punishment, and you don't connect love with punishment. That's why. But what example you have given there clearly shows that it's about a concern and care, and there's no the concept of punishment doesn't even enter into the mind when you want to save someone or help someone. And even if that means being severe, like you mentioned, between a parent and a child, and if the child is in danger, then the parent will do everything to prevent that child, falling into the danger. So, and that might be being severe. So yes, thank you for that. Oh, Mena, you want to say something?
Gregory, can I quickly ask, is it because you are concerned for the other that you become severe, or are they other factors that you consider why uh, exhibiting or showing love to another is what is the main driving force or
The main driving force of love has always been the same: concern for the other human spirit, um, such that that human spirit may not come to um, impossible difficulties, such that
you,
you wish to make sure that the path is sunny. Therefore, there is always the need for that person who is concerned about to be on the alert, knowing fully well the um, scenario here in a net life. So love has always been about concern, and it has nothing to do with all the things many people allude to. Just make, because if you look at it very carefully, where you arrange the floor so that it becomes smooth, when the floor is too smooth and there is no challenge how can one then stand? Because there's nothing rough for the foot to hold on to. So in many cases, you find someone says, "Oh, I'm concerned about this particular person," and makes the path so smooth that there's nothing to challenge that particular person. And the examples which we normally give: would you say you love another person so much and you put him in a football or her in the football field and there are no opponents because you love your team? How would you then judge it when they just keep shooting the ball into the goal? For love that is severe, that is the type that helps to challenge the innate abilities or the potential abilities of the one concerned about. That is what it has always been. Something has to awaken, has to challenge those abilities. Else, the time allotted for maturity will have expired and nothing has happened.
yeah, thank you, Gregory. I'm still, hinging on that word consent because if you're concerned, you might be pushed to be too generous, and I can allude to the scenario in which you gave initially that a child crossing the road should always be protected from, doing so for the care of not being knocked down. But what I want to think is the reason why you want to protect the child is, for the child not to, I mean, to be aware of the laws of nature that a greater force would always impact on a smaller one. I mean, it is better, I mean, much beneficial for the child to be made aware of the laws of nature, and in applying those laws of nature, you act accordingly and show. I mean, that is the love you show to the child.
No,
Being concerned. Oh, excuse me.
no, no,
Can I
no,
finish?
no, no, no.
Uh, but
I
being
think you are
concerned.
seeing it the wrong way around. A child who is a toddler, what laws do you want to teach that child? The child who cannot even speak yet, all right, until they reach the age of adulthood or while they are still dreaming. It is your concern that cares for them, all right, that make them the examples that you set before the child, all right, be it in the home or in school. It is these examples, the right examples, that make them awaken, because that will help in the protection of the gift which they have here on earth, albeit that of the physical body. In the initial stage of an education, the key thing is to teach and protect the child in the sense of helping the child to know how to walk first how to sit and then how to crawl. It will be observing on its own and then starting to walk because it sees that people walk. And in these stages, your concern helps in protecting to ensure that child does not come to any harm. And when it reaches a particular age, your concern changes. It doesn't remain the same because now that particular personality is matured enough to take full responsibility so that it goes into the world prepared for the challenges, which challenges will now awaken it deeply because it will be forced to defend itself. And those innate qualities will now come to the forefront. That concern has always been there. And that is what every parent wishes for a child, unless, however, the parents have turned it the other way around, where they have hothouse plants. And when these hothouse plants go out in a stormy weather, they are easily blown away because they are not strong within themselves to, um, allow their innate abilities to come to the fore.
Yeah. So maybe you misunderstand me. When you say consent, you you could easily keep a child in the house and as a hothouse plant that is protecting the child or trying to prevent the child from coming into harm in the outside world. But what you are doing as a parent is guiding the child to become familiar with the laws of nature. You might look at it as if you say it's consent. Consent is too weak a word to use because what you are doing is necessarily guiding the child even right from the early years up to when he's an adult. All you need to do to the child, all your responsibility to the child is guidance, not consent. The concern he has to take is his own. He has to take it. He has to be concerned for himself. I That is how I want to put it. Because while we are parents, is to come is to act as a guide to our offspring.
I think Gregory, you might be on mute. Hello, Gregory?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
The word concern must not be taken in a narrow sense.
Okay.
All
Good. I
right.
like.
I think that's where you've been looking at it.
Yeah.
No, the word concern is very involving. The word concern itself is more of an expression of getting into activity in order to be able to sort of influence that particular activity. There is much to it. So that one is only used the word concern is used to encapsulate the scenarios which you are mentioning. It has nothing to do with selfishness. In a business, or a particular business, it is said these are their concerns. That is their area of tasks and activity. Many other things, fall in within that area. Um, but one only just used it in a fairly global sense, not in the very narrow sense. You talk about my area of concerns. All right. So at an initial stage, the parents, their area of concern is how to protect the child and allow the child to come to maturity. So there are all sort of restrictions, all sort of things you put in place. When the child grows up and as he's growing, you release those things, you change your area of concerns. And when the child gets to adulthood, some of the things, your concern changes. It doesn't remain the same because you now look at that particular human spirit now as being strong enough to solid thought, to do business. Then you can only send good wishes. You now withdraw. So once you look at it in a global sense, from the beginning until the child or the personality is mature enough to fend for itself and challenge itself.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I want to go into another sort of point now. Um, when we talk about love, we think of God Almighty, and He's love, and then we look at human beings and we see, let's say, the love that man expresses, or yes, how they act. It's not on the same sort of level, obviously, but what I want to ask you, Gregory, is can the genuine love, this is what we're talking about, is genuine love, can that really apply to all, or let's say, can all men give this genuine love? Because we have in the world all types of people living here. I don't want to make labels, but they're quotes of people who have, let's say, hatred of others for whatever reason, and which is obviously not love. And so can we actually have love? These things can sound very beautiful in an idealistic way, that, oh yes, God is love and we have love, let's say, in our family and near people around us. But then in the world, as our fellow men, we look at them, we see, oh, it's not like that. So can genuine love really exist among all men? And if so, how?
Of course, genuine love can occur amongst all men, but such love springs from the inner man, not on shallowness. For that which is genuine is not shallow, it's deep and looks at the different aspects of it, such that it's like you make a boat. The boat which is able to stand in all weather. So when there is a storm, the boat is able to withstand the storm. And many will say this boat was built with genuine material and with good craftsmanship, not something which is made with flimsy material, which will collapse with the smallest puff of wind. So genuine love, of course, does exist. Such genuine love does not find excuses, but because of its genuineness, it is very severe, because it wants or it wants the other party to be as deep in its commitments as possible. However, it depends on the person that expresses genuine love. It depends on its inner maturity. What you have here on earth is a variation of the inner maturity of the personalities, and depending on their maturity, people exhibit as an expression of their inner maturity when they talk about love. For those who are very shallow, who haven't given a real thought or real thoughts to it, then they use the word love. Whereas for those who have thought about it very thoroughly and seek to practice it, they also know it is severity. Again, look at the area of football where many are hooked up to. The coach of a football team would not say, "Oh, I love my team, and therefore they should all go to bed and do nothing." Even the supporters will say, "We love our team, and they should go to bed and do nothing." They expect them to be out there, to work very hard in all severity, whatever the challenge. That is what they expect, and such expectations are correct, even by those who do not, in quotes, understand what genuine love is. There is some real expectation, for they know much has been given to these players, and therefore much is expected. In the same way that the human spirit, much has been granted to the human spirit, and therefore creation or nature expect much from these particular individuals. How they then respond to the expectation depends on their inner maturity. And it is a variation of the maturity that people express, oh, love or not love, and things of that nature. So you can find those who have to struggle turn out to be more healthier than those who had to do nothing. Because they have been doing nothing, their body has not sort of responded to the challenges to make it strong. Whereas those who just who exert themselves through all sorts of challenges, you know, those challenges help to build them up and become very strong for future challenges. It has always been like that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Greg. I've actually got a follow up, but before I do that, I just want to remind listeners you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And if you are interested in getting a copy of the Grail message or want to get some more information, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is why, with a comma after that, why genuine love is severity. And if you have any questions or comments, you can contact us on this UK number, which is 079 444 31366. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 +44431366. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Yeah, Gregory, just one thing I want to follow up on about the question I asked was, can genuine love be, uh, you know, can all human beings, yes, have, there can be genuine love amongst them, and I know you gave the example of the football team, and of course those players and coach are already like having a same goal, but then in the world we have people with different, let's say, ideas and different um, goals, even, let's say, and then they have a conflict. Well, the word conflict might be an understatement, because we even get wars and you know, real hatred even, and such people. And also, we also know from our previous discussions that we, the human beings, have free will. In other words, we decide or choose what we want to do. And so I was thinking, how can, yes, you can say it is nice to be, you know, brotherly with your fellow man, but when there's this happening, where there's a disagreement, or uh, let's say even hatred, like I say, between some peoples, how can love exist there? How can love exist there? Is Does God have to impose Himself to put that love there, or can man himself sort of come together?
Well, you yourself said it, that there are people of different maturity. The love has always been there and will continue to be there. What has happened is man has distorted it, turned it the other way around due to their own inner selfishness. For common sense should indicate that each one is here to better himself or herself. And in the process of doing that, each one should try to minimize obstructing the other person. And if possible, support. Again, this has been made very clear in the parable that Christ gave when he says, love thy neighbor as thyself. With that, he gave the key. For he knows that people need to work together. Like you find in the case of fire brigade, which they say, one for all and all for one. So it is possible. However, the reality is that there is a variation in maturity. And those who are less matured will prefer conflict instead of cooperation in order to build up. So it is possible. For when one looks at it, in a society where people exist, they have to support one another. If they don't support one another, then any external challenge will sort of decimate such societies. So it is possible to have genuine love, even at very difficult times, even if others have to go to war, to teach the other parties lessons. Of course, it's the more matured ones who suffer as compared to the arrogant ones. But again, lessons can be learned. So it is possible, and the laws of creation that granted the personality the free will knows fully well that the free will is necessary for its maturity. That being the case, the Lord Almighty does not need to intervene with all sorts by changing the laws of creation. Such things can never happen. Through challenges, those challenges may appear as conflicts. Those challenges may also appear as support. Many are supposed to learn from these challenges, which challenges will help bring out those innate qualities. Therefore, it's unnecessary for the Lord Almighty to change the laws of creation because human spirits now have challenges on earth.
Thank you so much for that. Mena, I think you wanted to ask something.
Yeah, I did want to ask. Looking at the concept of severity, I think you're now making me understand that, or making us understand that severity means, the infliction of pain, and where in the exercise, in the in exercising love, there must always be some form of pain. Is that how we have to see the concept of love?
No, pain only comes in when people don't understand what love is all about. Take, for instance, a, a person wants to become a medical doctor. In that process, he or she has to challenge himself or herself in such a way that those innate qualities will come to the fore. If that particular person is lax in doing it, then the task before it will become a pain. If, on the other hand, that personality puts all the effort, the necessary effort, always practicing, always paying attention to details, such an attitude, because it is the attitude that counts, will make it such that it will overcome some of the challenges quite easily. So pain, as we know it, may not even be there. It may turn out to be something very joyful for it because it prepares for for these challenges. Similar to the case of someone who wants to do a marathon. If that person has been practicing, of course there will be challenges. Its response to the marathon will be better than the person who has not practiced at all, who wants to do marathon just like that. So the threshold of pain is much greater for him or her who has not been on the alert or has not practiced. So that is one way one should view it. But the inner attitude is the key here. It is the inner attitude that creates the preparedness for the personality to face these challenges.
Thank you again, Gregory. I've got a question from a listener here, which I'd just like to read out. It says, we often hear from near-death experience people saying that God's love is unconditional. Is this a wrong way of thinking about God's love? I'll just say it again. So this is from a listener here, which is the question is, the statement or question is, we often hear from near-death experience people saying that God's love is unconditional. Is that a wrong way of thinking about God's love?
Yes, yes, it is absolutely wrong. The love of the Almighty is conditional. is conditional on the human spirit opening itself to the laws of creation through which the human spirit, came into existence. For the love is always there. If, however, the human spirit does not open itself to be able to absorb this love in the right way, then it says, oh, the love is not there. But the love has always been there and is always there. It is the way the human spirits open themselves that counts. And it is an expression. The ups and downs are an expression on how the human spirits themselves have opened themselves to be able to perceive or partake of this love for joyful upswings.
Thank you for that, Gregory. It, it might, when you answered it, God's love is unconditional, not unconditional. First, I was taken aback, and then when you answered it, I understood where how how what you meant now, and because I would say people are assuming or presuming, oh, God's love is unconditional, but as you've said, God's love is always there. That's what you've highlighted. It's always there. It's just how man uh, realizes it and responds to it, and or appreciates it, and how he responds to it is what brings the results. So yes, thank you for that
And it's
clarification.
bound, bound to its laws as well. You see
As,
that?
go on, Mena.
Yeah,
What did you say?
yeah, yeah. God's laws or God's love is bound to its laws.
To the laws, yes. So the laws have to be. So I think this will be a very appropriate moment to talk about the laws. So, Gregory, could you please tell us what are these laws that we are talking about here?
Well, when one sort of examines things very carefully and has the right inner attitude, one finds that opens a way, opens a path for that personality to be able to resonate with that which exists already. That expression, to resonate, to vibrate in the right mood, is what is referred to generally as the law of attraction, of homogeneity. For one is able only to perceive that which one is opened up to. In the same sense, one might say birds of a feather flock together. And you hear expressions like father, like son, or like mother, like daughter. The key thing here, which is common all the way, is resonance. But to express it in a more general sense or a more intuitive sense, it may be referred to as the law of the attraction of homogeneity or the law of the attraction of homogeneous species. For when one refers to what one refers to as homogeneous species is those species that are able to resonate, else one is unable to perceive the other. Love will perceive love. And that was why in the proverb or in the guidance that Christ gave when it was said, and who is my neighbor? It was the other person who perceived the challenges of that other person who had been injured and beaten up and was able to resonate at that particular level and therefore was able to give help. Whereas the priests and the Levite could not resonate with the other person that is down. So the law of the attraction of homogeneity is a key feature in creation. The second part one may refer to is that of activities in nature or activities in creation, which is the law of reciprocity. For every time we all experience that we breathe in and subsequently we breathe out, or we breathe out and breathe in. So we have an activity which seems secular. Therefore, you find that in all activities in creation, there is an initiation of that activity, and then there is a return back to complete that cycle. Such feature which exists in all creation, which exists in nature, may be referred to as the law of reciprocal activity. This law of reciprocal activity has many faces, and one of the faces is that of movement. It defines movement. It defines how, once things have been set in motion, once someone has gone to the farm to plant its crops, it will come back in returns. Once somebody has let out a thought, that thought being physical or non-physical, that thought will come back because there is a thread which is connected with that thought, and in accordance with the law of the attraction of homogeneous species, that thought will attract other thoughts, and in its maturity and ripeness, it will fall back to the origin, to the author. So we have the second law one is referring to, the feature of reciprocal activity or reciprocal action. There is a third one which one may discuss, and is that of density. That what's in thoughts is light or lighter seems to rise like hot air, whereas what is dense sinks. This is the beginning, or what some may refer to as gravitation. Just as you have gravitation here on earth or in the world of matter, there is also spiritual gravitation, which depends on the density of man, depending on his innate activities. This particular personality spins threads, which threads are able to enable him to rise or to sink. So there is the law of spiritual gravitation. The mention of these three laws is only in the passing. However, it is best if many a listener strives to get a copy of the work in the light of truth to examine for themselves how these three laws form the framework, the cornerstone of all that exists in nature or in creation.
Thank you again, Gregory, for your answer there. Um, I've got another question, this time about forgiveness, because as the topic is about why genuine love is severity, and yes, we've talked about love showing concern, care for people, and then in times we have to be severe. But then, when you think of love, it can't be only severe. You know, there has to be um, forgiveness. So where does that uh, love and forgiveness come together then? Because I mean, if you only think that love is severity, so maybe Gregory, we need to talk about: is love only severity, or is it more than severity?
Depending on how the personality perceives it, it may be severity, it may appear differently. But one should never forget that love binds. And since it binds that person who shows the concern. Threads are spun, which tend to bind two or more individuals depending on their inner attitude. The question which you asked, how does forgiveness comes in? How does it fit in? The simple example which one may mention is that of when a particular person come to realize that there are threads that have been spun, and unless that thread is severed through forgiveness, then it becomes very difficult for him or her who has been offended or injured to express himself or herself freely. So forgiveness is more of providing an opportunity for the other person to realize or to awaken to the realization of what love is all about. If, on the other hand, there is no forgiveness, then that thread is still there. It binds. It doesn't grant the other personality enough time for self-realization. One may look at it this way, that you have the case of a binding. If a person is injured and there is no opportunity to realize that, the cause of the injury, how can that injury, will I say, heal itself? The need is always there to ensure that an opportunity is provided where support can be sent in such that all the parties concerned will strive to understand things better. And in understanding lies forgiveness.
Okay. Gregory, before you go further, can you just clarify the phrase genuine love? What does it mean by, what do you mean by genuine love? I mean, Christ used the expression love, several times in the Bible. So what was he, what was his concern? What was he on about? What was he trying to implant in man as to his approach to his neighbor when he says love? When he mentions the word love, what does he really mean?
Christ always spoke in a spiritual way. So what he referred to was this was highly spiritual and not the distortion of weaknesses that men call love nowadays. So his words were highly spiritual, and he came for his spiritual mission, and that is what he did. And all the examples he gave was to give a broader picture in spiritual pictures of what it means. So when the word genuine is referred to, it only means more of that which lasts longer. And that which lasts longer must be spiritual, not that which vanishes in no time. That cannot be genuine. For when you know fully well, when you go and buy so-called spare parts, all right, they say, oh, people say, is this genuine? If it's genuine, they know it lasts longer. Otherwise, they know it doesn't last long at all. So that which lasts for a long time or long lasting is that of the Spirit. And that is what Christ referred to.
Could he could he not have meant more than what has durability? Was he not trying to um, show man, that or try to direct man to the laws of creation?
Well,
Help,
like,
hold on, yeah, like having giving the opportunity to your neighbor to understand the laws of creation aright. I mean, to imbibe the laws of creation aright is actually what he meant by love. Otherwise, what was his aim?
there is a difference between love and the laws of creation. Love is substantiality and therefore binds. The laws of creation are the expression of the will of the Almighty. They are separate, but one. On the one hand, there is the love, which love itself Christ as the personification of divine love. And on the other hand, there is the will. One must separate these two, yet they are one. So when Christ spoke, he spoke out of divine wisdom, which wisdom is an expression of the laws of creation. However, these things are supposed to be taken one bit at a time in discussions of this nature. And that is why one strives to explain what genuine love is. The love which many talk about here has nothing to do with genuine love. In fact, it is not love. It is just weaknesses which many allow to fester, and it's convenient for them to give it an alluring name, which is called love. So there has been all sort of distortion. Whereas what is being discussed here, or what Christ referred to, is the genuine one, the longer lasting, which love carries creation, which love carries, sustains nature, which love granted the possibility for the human spirit to even come into existence, which love nourishes the human spirit. That has nothing to do with weaknesses. And Christ would not have spent his time talking about these weaknesses which men call love. At the same time, he himself had to talk in simple parables with the entrance of these parables into the human spirit. Many were able to open up, to understand it better, and then live aright. That is, durable and long lasting. Long lasting only means it's durable.
You just said that
One moment, sorry, Mena. One moment. I just want to tell listeners they're listening to Blessed Radio. This is the spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdrushin. And the topic we're discussing tonight is why genuine love is severity. Yes, I will say this again, the topic, why genuine love is severity. And you can join in the discussion with any question or comments. The number to contact us in the UK, our UK number is 079 444 313 66. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And just again to remind you listeners, if you are interested in getting a copy of the Grail message or want to get in more information, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, GRAIL, message, MESSAGE.com. Go ahead, Mena.
Yes, you've just said, love and the will are two different things, but yet one. So I would like to, infer from that when Christ says love your neighbor, it meant that, show your neighbor or help your neighbor to recognize the will of the Almighty in creation, because that is only what can, sustain and, grant eternity. Would that be wrong to assume? I agree.
Many things can be assumed. The realization or the correct realization is what really counts.
Yeah,
but you have to understand that.
Yeah, I do understand, because when you say love and the will are one, but yet separate. I agree. Then the one could not be enforced without the other being sustained as well.
Yes, but how does the human spirit grasp this sort of discussion? Right? It grabs in bits.
Yeah.
It knows fully well, or in the right sensing, in order to make things comprehensible, it knows of the laws, which three laws we just discussed. That is the cornerstone of the wisdom. On the other hand, there is the substantiality, that which is able to see or perceive, which is concrete. So these two, the laws of creation, and another feature, which is substantiality, these two, they are separate, but one. That means the human spirit can see them separate, but connected or linked. Gradually, in reflecting about it, it will come to the right understanding. For one cannot just say it is one and the same thing. They are separate because there are separate personalities that embody the love, one of which personality is Christ himself, and another personality that embodies the will. For a better and deeper understanding, many a person should examine the work in the light of truth. Therein, clarity is given completely.
Okay. Yeah. The rest of that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Now, I was looking at the word severity, and you didn't, you know, even how I call it now, separate situations where people go into wars and so forth. Now, I'm also looking at a situation in those days when we grew up in secondary schools where, well, out of no fault of ours, we did make mistakes, and we did have punishments. Punishments were instituted. Severe punishments. I mean, punishments were not even they don't match the the offense. Would you categorize these punishments as severe love that would bring about reformation, or where countries go to war against another country? Are those the right approach towards bringing about the love
The
or a recognition?
expression of severity
Yeah.
depends on the inner maturity of the person who is involved in that particular severity. Like you said, some countries, they go to war. If you are to ask, why did they go to war? And listen carefully to their reasons, then if you are the type who is able to have an overview or an overall picture, then you might understand why that scenario has come into existence. For the human spirits, they have free will, and they exercise this free will individually or collectively. And when the returns then come, the returns are such that it brings to them that which they themselves have initiated into creation. How these things then work out themselves may be through such conflict which they themselves had initiated. And in experiencing this conflict, it is hoped that they will mature in such a way that such conflicts, which sort of destroys the gifts of the physical body and inflicts such terrible experiences within the souls or the spirits of men, such may be avoided. So the scenario man has found himself is only a return of what he or she had put in creation, or on the other hand, what he or she has voluntarily agreed to go through in order to be able to mediate help to all. So when you are talking about those things in the primary school or secondary school, most of those things were basically how those authorities understood things, their limitations, and the way they want to strike fear into the personality, maybe in order to prevent such from happening again, or some from out of hatred. The volitions of men are varied. Some volitions which clearly demonstrates hatred, they may call it love. For in all these expressions of volition, it is what lies behind it, in accordance with the laws of creation, that count. It is what lies behind it that sort of dishes out what the returns will be.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, Gregory. Just to get a bit more sort of clarification about these, what Mena was saying about at school, students being punished, what it looks like unfairly for the offense they committed, and so we are talking about love being severe. Does it mean that you have to be severity means being harsh to teach a person a lesson that they can, a lesson that they will not forget? So it means that, let's say whatever offense somebody commit, it may the, let's say the punishment, if you use that word punishment in quotes, has to be, let's say, I'm going to use the word slightly, looks like it's unfair on the surface, because for it to be effective, it need to be a little bit more harsh than what you would expect. And then, and when that is harsh, which means in this word I'm using the word harsh to equate with severity or severe, that would
Yeah.
make it effective. So is that what it is? So it looks from the surface, oh, this is a bit too excessive. This punishment I'm getting as a student is a bit excessive. It's not really what I did didn't deserve this much, to be punished so heavily. But for it to be effective, it need to be a bit harsh. So would we say that is what is going on here? That it has to be a bit harsh or severe for the punishment to actually work?
The volitions of men vary. Some of these volitions are purely intellectual volitions, and some others are spiritual volitions. Depending on where the volition springs from, that tells that which is effective or not effective. When men express their thoughts, the expression again depends on their inner maturity. There are places where it is said, or in accordance with some of the laws, where if somebody steals an orange, it is called stealing and his hands will be chopped off. Now ask yourself, stealing, the way they have seen it, is in a very simple or naive physical way of taking that which does not belong to you. Yet those people who insist on such laws are taking a feature of a human spirit which does not belong to them by force. What does that tell us? That they themselves do not have clarity about these laws which they are enforcing. That is why in the walk in the light of truth, at the very first beginning, it is said, belief becomes conviction. But even before that, see, he who does not make the effort to understand the laws of the Lord aright burdens himself or herself with guilt. So the key here is that those who sort of interpret these laws, how much do they understand? Those who have put, be it in the secondary school or in a nation or in a church or in a mosque, how much do they understand? By the way they apply these things, they give proof that they themselves do not understand it. And that's why you have such harshness. Must it be harshness before people can learn? Are there not other ways, more flexible ways? Are they sure that they have explored all the different aspects before they put such laws down? Not being able to or not willing to explore all the flexibility is some form of indolence. And the same law says indolence or ignorance of the law is no excuse. Yet they who quote such go ahead and violate this same law they are quoting. Everything must be understood with the basis of the laws through which the human spirit or man came into existence. These laws are the laws of creation, in the sense creation has given it. That is why we have discussions of this nature, and that is why we always strive to point in the direction of the walk in the light of truth, such that each personality that strives to understand can examine it for itself, not because we have said they should examine it, but only through self-examination, voluntary self-examination. That is where genuineness lies. For in examining this work voluntarily, the inner man comes to realization, the right realization, and as long as it persists along the road of the right realization, it will arrive at a destination where it will have complete understanding and all burdens, all wrongdoings are either minimized or avoided. Then that is the right approach to the challenges. For what then approaches it, he or she knows how to respond to whatever challenge that approaches it. For it may either be such a challenge is to enable him to expand his understanding or to make amends to those things it had initiated in the past.
Yeah. A clarification. I'm in telling man or in your radio um, broadcast, to the world. Let's say, in asking man to examine the work, where do you exercise severity, and what is the purpose? Is the purpose for just to get them aware of the work, or to enable them recognize the will, which, it's a means of getting them to recognize the will the will of the creator and creation.
Mena, can you just rephrase that? What you just said,
Okay,
I
because
couldn't
yeah,
quite
I
hear
said,
you.
I said in urging, the listeners to examine the work. Where do you exercise that severity which you talk about? And would it, would the purpose not, would it, the purpose not be to give direction to how man can follow follow the will, to recognize and follow the will of the Almighty Father in creation? What is your aim?
You ask, what is one's aim?
Yeah,
The key thing, which one we call one's aim, is that whenever I breathe in, I breathe out. The key thing here is whoever receives, whoever receives must make use of what he or himself or herself has received and pass it on, such that as more and more people come to understand what has been received, which works is like a guidance, and people who are, the more who are able to examine this guidance, the better it will be for them, for they themselves will come to understand the laws of creation depending on their inner attitude.
yeah. Thank you.
That is basically it.
Yeah,
There is
that's it.
no other thing.
Yeah,
One cannot force anybody, for, like we keep stressing, genuineness lies in voluntary activity, not in forcing anyone. But there is, one should never forget, there is no personality who does not want to improve himself or herself. The challenge has always been, how can one improve himself or herself? Very, very sadly, many consider the abundance of money or of funds to be happiness. But what they have forgotten, or what they have failed to realize, is that the Lord Almighty did not create money. Money was created by individuals or by governments. That which is made available for the human spirit, or for the human spirit to cultivate, are the inner talents. It is those inner talents that needs to come to fruition. That is where we are pointing to. And that is
yeah,
not forced, but each person must strive to cultivate his inner talent. Else, the time available, or the time granted for the cultivation of this inner talent, to put it in a different form, a different format, for the human spirit to become self-conscious, that time is bounded and limited. For that activity can only be accomplished in the world of matter, where activities are a bit slower or are much slower than the activities in its origin, the paradise of man. And if it's unable to do that, to awaken and to come to self-consciousness, the time allotted will then expire, and it will then return to its origin as an unconscious spirit gem. The experiences it had gathered in the past are not in accordance with the laws of creation. So that will genuinely be a complete waste of time and resources that it has been granted. That is what motivates many to point out to others that there is a work which can assist the human spirit in its realization of becoming self-conscious.
Thank you.
Yeah. There's a maxim in the Bible where it says, spare the rod and spoil the child. And if your mouth, your if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. What should be my understanding of these axioms? Yeah?
Sorry, man.
Well, it is very wrong.
Sorry, man. Can
Sorry.
you just say it again, because somehow your
Yes,
voice is a
I
little not.
said this.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I said there are some maxims in the Bible where it says spare the rod and spoil the child, or if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. How do I understand these axioms?
Right.
If
Well,
certain religious groups are taken to cutting apart.
it is a clear demonstrations of the lack of understanding of these words. For many have sinned, maybe with their hands or with their legs or with their thoughts. Let us consider the case of many who have sinned with their thoughts. What then happened? Were they able to chop off the center of their thoughts? So it's a very narrow way of understanding the processes in creation. But the way it has been given is such that many can easily see the picture, which only means if whatever causes you to sin, you yourself must strive to ensure you do not allow that source of activity to come up. It's as if hold it back so that it doesn't grow. Else, what you will have in a literal translation will be all hands are chopped off, all mouths are cut off, all heads are chopped off. Then what remains?
Purity.
Then, if one looks at it very carefully, who is to do off the chopping? Is it the authority? In a very literal sense, any set of authority that tries to do such things, they themselves are violating the law which says, thou shalt not kill. So the whole picture has to be understood aright. It's the same, he who makes no effort to understand the word of the Lord are right. This has always been the problem. Partial, narrow, wicked interpretations. It has nothing to do with those who gave these laws, but it has everything to do with men who, in their indolence, do not strive to understand things very deep. And therefore, they use these laws to punish others and therefore violate the rights of others. For it is stated clearly, thou shalt not kill. So, having chopped off all the heads and the hands and maimed everyone, and everyone is now blind, how do they then proceed? So, such narrow interpretation leads to a quagmire, whereas a more liberal and far-seeing interpretation is helpful. But again, this is all the more reason why the walk in the light of truth becomes very apparent and helpful.
Okay. So I
Okay.
thought these
One
persons
moment,
who
Mena.
perpetrated these acts would be
Me-
considered severe. But
Mena.
thanks for giving treatment.
Sorry,
Hello.
Mena. Can I just make a break for you? Just to remind the listeners, this is Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdul Sheen. And the topic we're discussing tonight is why, with the comma after that, genuine love is severity. Why genuine love is severity. And you can join in with any question or comments. The number to contact us here in UK, it is 079 444 313 66. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're interested in getting a copy of the Grail message or want to get some more information, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I spell it www.grail, GRAIL, message, MESSAGE.com. Go ahead, Mena.
Yes, I was trying to say that severity didn't mean giving credence to people who perpetrated the act of chopping off and maybe using the rod as you would like to understand it. I thought that would have meant the severity as you try to epitomize in your topic, genuine love being severe. So perhaps you would like to give a clearer definition of what you mean to be severe.
One has always mentioned that you have to look at the whole expression. When the word severity is used, one is discussing something of the utmost importance. And severity doesn't mean punishment. Superficially, it may be referred to as punishment or seen by those who are weak as punishment. But severity has to do with the deepness of things. Such deepness is tied to genuineness. Such deepness refers to the spirit. And that is why it is said genuine love, which comes from the spirit, is severe. And severity itself looks alright, comes, is tied to love spiritually, not superficially. So the word severity must itself be understood intuitively.
Good.
And that which is intuitive is deep.
Good.
That which is intuitive is severe. It
Good.
goes deep within. It transcends the human intellect and goes to the human soul or further the human spirit. For many who are in the business of so-called information technology, or whenever you hear the word severity, that means how deep is it? How does it impact? If it is not severe, then it's being referred to as being shallow. If it is severe, you're talking of the deep impact. So the key expression one takes away from severity is the deepness, which deepness may be mapped to the inner human spirit. So that which is genuine is deep. It's a severe cut. That means a deep one,
Yeah.
not a superficial one.
Yeah. I think the main focus of any endeavor, be it love, be it punishment, it's to bring man to that realization of the laws of the Almighty Father in creation and how they sustain eternity. I think that is it. I,
Well, it's good to think about it,
yeah.
but the laws of creation do not punish. It is man that punish. The Lord Almighty does not punish. It is man that punish. It is man that sets up institution to make life impossible for others. It is man that sort of distorts the laws of creation for his own narrow ends. So it is man that punishes. The laws of creation through which all creatures came into creation ensures that the power is transmitted to nourish man. It is man that refuses to transmit that which has been passed onto them for their use and for the use of others. Therefore, it is man that punishes, not the structures which have been set up in creation to ensure a harmonious flow of power, of energy, of resources to nourish man. So, such severity as we are talking about, are discussing, is that of the spirit, but it is man that punishes because of its own superficiality and limitations. Superficiality because it hasn't gone deep enough. It has not been severe with itself to go deeply into the workings of creation.
Thank you, Gregory. I've got a question from a listener. Um, they're saying people believe that Christ's death on the cross was an act of great love in order to redeem humanity uh, of sin, so that they may confidently go to heaven. Is this true? I'm just going to say it again. So, people believe that Christ's death on the cross was an act of great love in order to redeem humanity of sin, so they may confidently go to heaven. Is this true?
The answer lies in itself there. When the law was given, thou shalt not kill, it only means that one should not deliberately go out there, set up institutions to deaden and kill their fellow men. That law came from the Almighty. Then they should ask themselves, how can the Almighty, who ensured that this law should be given to man, now take from himself his personification of divine love and then give that personality to man to be killed, to be hung on the cross like a thief? It only means they never understood or they have refused to understand. At the same time, they overestimate themselves. They overestimate their importance. Such has never been the case and was never the case, for the law is adamant. Thou shalt not kill. So, in essence, he himself, who is life, will not send his own son to be murdered and through murder to become to make men agreeable so that they can saunter themselves and go to paradise in their limited state, in their lack of understanding, or in their blind hatred. They can be rest assured that the laws that had been put in creation, these laws do not of themselves change, but man has to change. The laws are and will continue to be. Man is yet to be. For unless he himself matures in such sense that he grasps the will and the love of him who granted him the opportunity, unless he himself understands it and makes use of the opportunities, he will never make it. And it's time they better understand that Christ did not come here to be crucified or to permit himself to be crucified and nailed on the cross such that he will now take away the sins of man. The law is adamant. That which a man has sown has to return back to him, here or hereafter.
Thank you for that, Gregory. But what I still quite not sure about is that you said we are not allowed to kill, or the laws say you cannot kill. I understand that, but then you also said man has weaknesses, and in order to overcome these weaknesses, and in this case we're calling them sin here, or that's what it has been said here, that man committed sin. If, let's say, man is too weak to overcome that sin or to redeem that sin, then some of these people think that Jesus, coming from God, uh, has greater power than man, and therefore, rather than we calling it murder, maybe it is a sacrifice. Only God can remove the sin, not man is capable of it, and so Jesus came to be a sacrifice to remove the sin, because man is incapable of removing it himself, and that is why and he's also pure compared to what man is. So only somebody is pure can remove the sin, and has has this. So maybe that is what has happened here, that that is how he opened the gate to heaven for man, by taking away
May
the
I
sin.
come in so that it's not too long?
Yes.
In the first case, the word sacrifice is wrongly understood. To make a sacrifice doesn't mean to kill. To make a sacrifice only means to use those features which are available to you to build up, not to destroy. Christ came to build up, not to destroy. The will of his Father builds up, not to destroy. So, because the word sacrifice had been wrongly understood, everywhere man goes, he hears the word sacrifice means to kill. To sacrifice, strictly speaking, has nothing to do with decimation or killing of anything, but has everything to do with making use of that which has been granted to you as a tool, as to bring you benefits. When you build up, you have benefits. When you destroy, what benefits do you then have? So, the word sacrifice is not understood clearly. And it should be made very clear that at the beginning, man had to leave its origin in order to journey the far distances and gradually come to self-consciousness. That sacrifice man had to make is only that deep within the spirit are talents. And the sacrifice which was made by the light was to provide the opportunities such that those innate talents will come to fruition. It wasn't that they have to be destroyed, because whenever sacrifice is mentioned, many see destruction because it has been totally distorted. Therefore, the light had sacrificed in the sense of making possible and putting structures in place such that those innate talents will come to fruition. And when man lost his path and couldn't follow, what was available through the Lord Almighty was the personification of divine love. And that personality set out, sensing all the difficulties. It came down and also showed man examples how he or she needs to live in order to mature and return back home as a self-conscious human spirit. That effort is a sacrifice itself. It has nothing to do with destruction. It has everything to do with upbuilding and support. So when a father sacrifices, makes use of his time and efforts for the children, does that mean he has to kill himself? or he has to allow the children to kill him. Therefore, the interpretation that had been given all the while is wrong. However, many will find clarity, greater clarity, when they examine the work in the light of truth, the grail message.
Thank you so much, Gregory. Gregory, do you have anything you'd like to read out from the Grail message at all for the listeners with regards to tonight's topic? Gregory?
Hello,
Hello,
can you
Greg?
hear me now?
Yes, yeah, I think, yeah. I don't know if you heard me.
Sorry, I normally put it in mute so that no
Right.
noise will filter across.
Okay, so I just want to ask you, Gregory, do you have anything you'd like to read out to the listeners from the Grail message in reference to tonight's topic?
Sadly, I do not have any hard copy before me.
Right.
Here, most of what I have is on the phone,
Okay.
and so it becomes almost an impossible task.
Yes.
So if you have something there, you might. I tend to minimize having too many books as I travel from one place to the other.
Sure.
But everything is a soft copy nowadays.
That's true. Okay, so actually, I didn't have anything ready right now, but I will now make a sort of something in the future. Let me see our time. We've got just 5 minutes now, so a few minutes. I just thought, rather than probably talk about something else, new question. Mena, did you have anything further?
No, it's been a very clear discussion, as regards, why, genuine love is severity, and I like to say that, it's not for us to, give, everything to the human spirit, because we are urging everyone and each and everyone to make that effort to pull himself up. It's not what we give that will benefit you, is what you prepare for yourselves, what you grab and take out of creation for yourself, that is yours, not what someone said to you. So why we want to be indulging by giving you, the urge, pushing you, you still have to make the effort to take out of creation which will benefit you. Otherwise, it's nothing. The whole essence, whatever you grasp, with your brain, will come to naught, because it's not going to go anywhere from here.
Yes. So what you're saying, everybody has to make his own effort to, like Jesus said, you reap what you sow. So you need to sow to get the result of what you're looking for. So, just like any athlete or something who is competing, he has to work hard and really, exercise and do everything he needs to do to prepare and to, for him to compete with other people, and then only then he can have the possibility of winning his race or whatever sport it is. So yes, so no effort, no gain, or no pain. We've talked about tonight is why genuine love is severity. So doesn't mean when we use the word pain that is a suffering pain. It's just a pain to put an effort to get the reward. In fact, I just want to share with listeners who might have watched this show this morning, Good Morning Britain. In their, there's so many things that happen in the show, but this morning there was a 6-year-old girl who's born, I believe it, if I'm correct about it, she was born with no legs and no arms, but somehow she's been so positive that they with her attitude of being joyous and happy, that they've managed to give her like artificial legs, or and
Yep.
and she's done she, basically it's not just that she's walking on these legs, she's trying to do things for charity, and just being very inspiring. So and some people will say, oh, how unlucky this girl is without her legs and without her arms, and things like that. People could have this pity, but the girl herself is so full of energy and full of happiness herself, just very she's not looking at that at all as a handicapped, or as a something, let's say a curse, whatever how word you want to describe it. She's only taking it in quotes a positive way, which and then because of that way she's being, everybody else is inspired as well, and bringing joy to them as well. I think she even got her school involved, you know to take these activities, do these activities that she's involved in. So it's like she's really being like a big model. So things like Gregory said, we take them, might take with a certain point of view, oh, this is difficult, or this is a problem, but actually it's an inspiration to motivate you as a challenge, to do something which walking is not a challenge for most of us, and something like that, but but out of the challenge something exciting can happen. So yes, so that's how I would like to end tonight. So thank you, listeners, for joining us. I just want to ask Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say goodbye to the listeners?
Yes, you wish them very well. You wish them a good week, and hopefully see them the following week.
Yes, so thank you, listeners, for being with us. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Now, next week is Christmas Eve, 24th of December. We'll be here, and the topic we're going to have for that, of course, is Christmas. So we're calling it Christmas Time. So you're welcome to join us, of course, as usual, Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And hope you can join us. So yeah, I wish everybody a great week, and please do examine the Grail message as we have said, and look forward to you joining us next week. All the best, everybody. Take care. So listeners, Brother Sayom should be on soon. We're going to play some ads while we wait for him. So do stay on to listen to Brother Sayom with his exciting show, as always.